So let us continue with our lesson, and first of all let's go and change the label. So this should be of another home fragment, this should be of a home, and this is our task. So we just say add task, and this is our label for our profile. So let's change this to profile, and the next is to change the ID. So we have to change the ID, and if you go to the, let's go to the bottom navigation and the main menu, bottom navigation, we have already created a ID. So we have to make use of a same ID. So the menu over here, if you go over here, the menu ID that we have added over here, we have to make same with the graph ID, that the activity that we have, the fragment that we have added over here, the ID should match with the menu item that we have created over here. So what we will do is we'll just go to our menu item and just copy the ID, and if you go over here and we'll just, not this one, so navigation base, and just change the ID back to the, yes, why it's changing the navigation home, yeah, correct. So you may be confusing why we are changing it, but later I will show you that why it's we need to have a same ID, otherwise it will not work. Just close that one, I'm not interested, I'm interested on this one. So it should be of add task, just paste it over here, yes. And next is of our navigation profile. Just copy the ID and just go over here and change the ID. Okay, so we have changed the ID already, so all of this. So navigation, let's just make it clear. Okay, so we have changed the ID as well as the title for our graph over here. And if you go to the navigation, I think we don't need it for now. Just close this one. And what we need to do now is, if you run the application, and let's try to run the application. If you run and check that it still doesn't work, whenever we click on the home, add tasks and profile, it will not work, and we will see the same screen because we haven't added a code or a logic to change a switch navigation. So let's wait for the application to get started, and let us test it. So this is a home fragment that we have, and if you go to the add tasks, still showing the home, and if you go to profile, still showing the home screen. So we need to fix this one. So what we'll do now is let us go to the main activity over here. We need to add some of the logic over here in order to make our navigation work. So currently it's not working, so what we need to do is we close all of this, and let's just open the main activity. And we need to make sure all of this, whenever we click on all of this menu item, then the fragments will switch. So for that, let's go over here, and what I will do is I'll create let me create a companion object first, and inside this I will just add a constant variable of tag, which is of, let's say, let me give a name of a main activity. Just copy and paste it over here. And next is let us go and create all of our app bar configuration as well as a nav controller we will need it. So let me create a private let init variable of our, say, app bar. So app bar why it's coming, I'm not sure. Okay, so app bar configuration. So app bar configuration we'll be needing. And next is a private let init bar we will be needing as nav controller. So it should be nav controller, controller. So nav controller. So we have this one. And let's go over here and create a new private function to add a bottom. Let's say bottom BRGT, bottom navigation. And inside this, let's add a app bar configuration. So app bar configuration is equals to app bar configuration dot builder. So we need to build it. Builder, sorry, builder. And over here, what we'll do is we will add all of our ID. So we need to add an ID over here. So for that ID, what I will show you is, let's go back to our navigation base, right? So this navigation base, we have an ID for each of our fragment that we have added. So you can see the ID, this one has ID, and this one has ID. So we need to add that ID and the ID of our bottom navigation view. So if we need to match that one, that's why we need to add over here. That's why we have to make it the same. So r.id.navigation, and we have for home, and the next is r.id.navigation of our attacks, and the third one we have a r.id.navigation of a profile. So why is a post file? Is it post file? No, I think we made it wrong. So it should be of a profile, navigation profile, not the post file. So let us fix that one. Navigation profile. So that should be fine. Yes. And if you go over here, it should be of a navigation profile. Sorry, it should be over here, navigation profile. And if you go to the bottom navigation, and it should be of a navigation profile. Yeah, that's correct. So we have a navigation profile. Why it's not showing? Navigation profile. Why it's not showing? There's something error. Why is that? NAVI, navigation attacks, navigation profile. It's already here, but I'm not sure why it's still giving me a error. And I just say dot build. So we are building that one. Let me go and check into the navigation base. So navigation profile, right? Sometimes Android Studio is quite funny, so why it's not trying to find it. So let's continue. We'll try to fix that one. And the next is I'll just make use of a nav controller. In the nav controller, we have to make use of a navigation. So navigation, Android X navigation over here. So navigation dot find the nav controller. So the nav controller is currently this, and also offer activities currently view is this, and we need to find the nav host. So the nav host is over here. This is the nav host. So I think we haven't provided any ID. Nav host. Currently it's a fragment. So I think we better rename it to something like nav host. FRAG. Sorry, should be FRAG MENT nav host fragment. And just make sure we copy this one and go and paste it over here. Sorry, r.id that one. Okay, so we have that one, and this one also got fixed. I'm not sure why it was too late to find out by the Android Studio. And we have added that the nav host fragment. And next is to finally set up our UI. So NAVI, navigation UI. We need to make use of navigation UI with setup with nav controller. Setup with nav controller, and we have to add a navigation view. So the navigation view is, let's go over here, bottom navigation. This is our one. Just copy and just paste it over here. and we just need to add the reference, and that should import our reference over here. This is the reference. So we have added the button navigation view, and we need to add a nav controller. Okay, so that should be fine, and we just implement this function in our main activity. And now let's try to run our application, and all of our navigation should work as expected. So let's wait for the application to get started, and let us go and test all of these three main items that we have added here. So let's wait for 2 seconds to get started all of this one. Okay, so we are here, and we just click on add tags, so it's coming the add tags. Let's click on profile, so it's perfectly working. So all of our menu item click event is working perfectly fine, and the navigation graph, or the navigation that we have created over here in the navigation base, and that's perfectly working fine. So it's how easy that we can create a navigation just by adding a few line of code. If you go over here and you check, we have just a few line of code, and with this few line of code, with the help of the Android navigation library, we are able to add such a good navigation. So whenever we are over, just click on this button, and we can navigate to each of the activity or fragment already without doing so much of work. So we just had to write some simple code that we have to write over here, and that made it perfectly working fine. So let's meet up in the next lecture, and we'll continue with our lesson next video. Till then, have a great day.